The international break is over and Derby County head to Pride Park as they face up against Preston North End on Wednesday evening at 7:45 kickoff. It's going to be an absolutely massive game down at the bottom end of the table. And if you want to just look at the league table right now, Derby County currently sit in 22nd place with a game in hand on all of those teams around them, currently sitting on 38 points. Cardiff City, Hull City and Oxford all lost at the weekend, giving Derby County the opportunity to finally break out of those relegation places which they fell into just a couple of months ago. Derby County have to win by 2 clear goals to overtake Hull City down there in 20th place. Preston North End are currently sitting in 14th with 10 wins, 17 draws and 11 defeats. They find themselves on 47 points. However, they lost to Aston Villa at the weekend in the Cup, and that's something which they'll be wanting to bounce back from. With lots of teams falling to defeat, there's teams like QPR and Swansea City that seem to be falling into this relegation scrap, and Derby County can be the reason they all come together. A victory on Wednesday evening would really help Derby County in their battle for survival, but how will it happen? Now obviously, if we want to look at both of these two sides, we can't ignore the injury problems which are faced with both sides. Derby County currently have Ben Osborne, Corey Blackett-Taylor, Curtis Nelson, Dejan Brown, David Ozo, Kane Wilson, Kmar Roof, Lars Jorgen Selverson and Nathaniel Mendez-Lang all as either doubts or out for this game. Mendez-Lang went on international duty, so he should be available. Kane Wilson is only supposed to be a few days, so I believe he should be good too. But everyone else, I'm not entirely sure. Now, obviously, over the course of the last couple of weeks, Derby County have added to their squad. Martin Whitehorn has returned to training with Derby County, and Eric Peters has signed until the end of the season. It's going to be very interesting to see how that dynamic works with Eric Peters, obviously, with the likes of Sondre Langas potentially needing surgery and the injury to Ben Osborne and Kane Wilson. It sort of opens that door for players to be able to move about a little bit. I do believe that Ryan Niambi is out as well, but that hasn't been updated on FootMob at the moment, so we'll have to wait for confirmation from John Eustace in his press conference tomorrow. Now, on the Preston North End side, Sam Greenwood is suspended, Alistair McCann is out, Brad Potts, Jack Watmore and Mulatin Osmasic is all expected to be out for this game as well. Now, just thought I'd jump in and let you all know that Preston North End are also suffering a major injury to their goalkeeper, Freddie Woodman, who has been ruled out for the rest of the season with an ankle injury. That's going to have a massive impact on this one. Obviously, Preston have had a better season than Derby, but when it comes to recent form, who is in the better window? And in my opinion, it has to be Derby County. 3 wins and 2 defeats in their last 5, beating Plymouth Argyle 3-2, Coventry City 2-0 and Blackburn Rovers 2-1. It's been a massive turnaround in the recent games with John Eustace, and making it 4 wins in their last 4 games would certainly help them in their quest for survival. Now obviously, Derby County fans have to be expectant that a couple of defeats may come their way over the course of the final 8 games, but it's all about keeping our heads and keeping positive, because survival is possible. It's very possible. And we look at Preston North End's results. 3-0 defeat to Aston Villa just yesterday. Sheffield United beating them as well 1-0 with 2 draws against Swansea City and Sunderland. Only victory in their last 5 was up against Portsmouth, and it was a 2-1 result. Now, we've already spoke about the league table, but let's get into it a little bit more. Derby County just 3 games ago were 7 points away from safety and looked as if they had no hope. There was teams around them that had games in hand and things like that, and Derby County looked down and out. But since that Blackburn Rovers game, the tide has really turned, and it just shows that the change of manager at Derby County, the change of manager at Blackburn, it shows how important John Eustace was at both clubs. Blackburn Rovers have lost 4 in a row now as Derby County look to try and make it 4 victories in a row. Valérien Ismaël just hasn't quite got going at Blackburn yet. And obviously, we have to talk about Preston North End, as it's the team that Derby County are facing on Wednesday evening. 2 defeats, 2 draws and 1 win in their last 5. It's not looking great for them, and they don't necessarily have the greatest run of fixtures either. They face up against Derby, Stoke, Cardiff, Leeds, QPR, Hull, Plymouth, and on the final day face up against Bristol City. Now, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, oh yeah, but that's a lot of teams down at the bottom. Pretty similar to Derby's run in a sense. And for me, that is why these games are so much harder, because Preston North End know if they go on a losing streak now, they could quite easily fall into that relegation dogfight, which Derby County are trying to get themselves out. And that's what Derby County will know as well. A victory in this game sort of brings Preston, it brings QPR, it brings Swansea, it brings Pompey right back into it. And then you've got Oxford, who have fell back in as well. You've got Stoke and Hull, who are right there. And obviously Cardiff City, not that far away as well. And that is sort of where the problem is lying at the minute. In my opinion, anyone from 14th down could go down. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it develops over the course of the next next 3 or 4 games, because I think it's going to be really telling where like Derby County end up. How are QPR going to turn around their recent drought of wins? How are Swansea City going to turn around their last 3 games? And they're the things that are really important. Oxford United have a really, really difficult run in, but are they going to be able to secure points? I think Gary Rowett will do just enough. Now, if we look at the home form of both sides, Derby County obviously find themselves in 17th place. 8 wins, 3 draws and 8 defeats, 27 points for them at home. Preston North End, 7 wins, 10 draws and 2 defeats at their home ground. But what's more important for Preston North End is their away form. 17th in the league, 3 wins, 7 draws, 9 defeats, just 16 points. Now, Derby probably come into this with an advantage. They currently sit 6th in the form table with 9 points from 5 games. Obviously, some of these teams have played an extra game, but in the last 5 that doesn't really matter. Preston North End obviously find themselves in 16th with just 5 points done for them. We go on to the XG table. Preston are overperforming. They've prevented nearly 1 less goal than they should have done. There's 4.5. They've scored 4.5 more, less than they should have, and they've got 3 less points than they should have. Derby County are 3 lower than they should be. They've scored more, they've conceded more. No, they've scored more, conceded more, and collected less points than they should have. And it is disappointing, obviously, to look at the league table as a Derby County fan, but the tide has turned for us, in my opinion. And heading into this one, don't get me wrong, I'm completely expecting a very, very tough task and a very, very difficult game. As you look at some of the players that we're going to be coming up against, you look at the likes of Emil Rees-Jacobsen, you look in the midfield at the likes of Jensen, like Thordarson. There's some really good players in there. And even if you're looking sort of like the back line, the likes of Story is a decent player, Bauer. And if we just check out their, obviously the most recent game against Aston Villa, which was obviously a cup game, there's some really good players in that squad. And the likes of Brady, Magoma, like there's some good players in there that really need to be shut down heading into this one. Now, obviously, when we look at it, the most important thing is that Derby County have had over 2 weeks rest, and that is what is going to be positive heading into this one. And you look at a player like Jeff Hendrick, who Derby County bought in just a couple of weeks ago and wasn't quite up to speed, but was sort of okay to sit on the bench, and he should probably be ready now. And you look at the introduction of Eric Peters, who I think is just going to be a bench option, nothing more. And then obviously, I don't believe Martin Waghorn's going to play. I said that in my video yesterday talking about it. But having Martin Waghorn in and around the squad is going to be absolutely massive for the upcoming season. Now, obviously, this is Derby's first game in, 17, 18 days, which is, it's going to be difficult because they might have lost the groove. But what's important is that some of those players that were on little injuries, the likes of Kane Wilson, the likes of Ryan Niambi, the likes of Mendez Lang, maybe even Corey Blackett-Taylor, could be back and back involved for this one, which means that we can put a little bit less pressure on potentially a Charles Abuka, a Cruz Allen, a Freddie Turley, who could potentially step up for Derby County. And I do just want to give, why I'm talking about, obviously, Derby County, I think it's really important to wish the best of luck in whatever happens next to Morton Spencer. Obviously, found out earlier on this season that he had a cardiac issue, which has ultimately led to him having to retire from football, which is absolutely devastating for him as a player who, in my opinion, would have been on the periphery of the first team. But it's just been a little bit difficult for him to sort of... obviously, that's something you can't really overcome. Yes, you can have operations and things like that, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes next. I'd really like to see him get sort of like go through the process of getting like an academy coaching opportunity or things like that. But I know that these things can be quite difficult to deal with as a player who probably hasn't known anything other than football throughout his entire life, essentially, and obviously came to Derby County from Leeds. Was it this summer or back end of last season? And unfortunately, this cardiac problem has sort of ended his career, which is, it's devastating really, because you've just got a feel for the lad, haven't you? And hopefully he can find a way to bounce back, not necessarily into playing, but maybe getting involved in analysis, getting involved in coaching, and getting his way back up to first team football that way. Be very interesting to see what he does do if he does continue to keep his life public. That's obviously going to be a decision for him and his family. Now, as we head into this game, the interesting conversation is going to be, how is the squad going to set up for Preston North End? I can't see us changing from the 3-5-2, if I'm completely honest. I think it's been really good in recent weeks, and that's something that you can't really sort of take away from John Eustace. He's found a formula that works. He's turned Marcus Harness into the second coming of R9. Harrison Armstrong in midfield has been brilliant. Ebo Adams sort of has become to get more composed on the ball, and exactly what I was talking about a few weeks ago, well, maybe a few months ago, really, just before Paul Warren went, is my problem with Ebo Adams was always that technical ability, but he certainly seems to be finding a little bit of composure and a little bit of confidence on the ball, which I don't think he had when Paul Warren was here, and that's really important, and that's massive in a championship campaign, and finding that is huge for Derby County. Obviously he's massive when it comes to defending, he's massive when it comes to breaking up play and things like that, and we can't underestimate that. But if he can add that element to his game where he's a little bit calmer in possession, I think Derby County will easily get out of this relegation scrap. Now obviously the conversation topic is going to be around Kane Wilson heading into this one. Obviously came off around the 75th minute versus Plymouth Argyle. Will he be ready? Will he be available? That's going to be a big question, which I believe we will find out from John Eustace tomorrow, if we haven't done so already. And we will do a video reacting to the press conference tomorrow once that is out. And obviously you've got the conversation around Eric Peters. Is he actually going to play games, or is it sort of like an F.A. Ambrose type vibe? And you can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County content heading your way. There will be a match day vlog on Wednesday, so make sure you've got that notification bell turned on, you've hit the like button, you've gone and followed me over on Twitter to keep up to date with everything that's going on, and I'll catch you in my next video.